And we welcome you into a brand new edition of the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead show. It is a Thursday afternoon in the Valley of Happiness, and we head to the weekend. Quite frankly, Goon, I'm a little tired of all of my friends. Of course, many of us are Pirates fans, and they're acting like the Pirates haven't won the whole month. Dudes, I mean, come on. It's not like we're 0-12. We're like 1-11 for the month of August. It has been brutal.
Just when you start falling in love with them, like, oh, we're going to make a run. Honest to God, do you remember our conversation? Pirates got to beat Byers at the trade deadline because they're going to make a run at the wild card. They didn't do anything. They were stagnant pretty much, and then
they did. They made a couple of moves, but definitely have not paid off. Trying to get,
big ticket,
a little power. They got the power guy from the Marlins, and that didn't.
He's doing great. We know his name right off the top of our heads.
Dividends. The Phillies. Now, I didn't know the stat. You want to share the stat that you gave us this afternoon? Keystone State, baby.
The Whitmer texted me the other day, and they said that the Phillies had the worst team in baseball since the All-Star break. And I said, yeah, they do. And he goes, you're kidding me, right? And he looked it up. And I believe they were 7-15. And then they won last night, or they were 6-17, so now they're 7-17, something like that. But now, since the Pirates lost again last night, they have worst records in baseball since the All-Star break.
Yeah,
the state of Pennsylvania has 32 losses and 16 wins.
That's not good.
That gets you in the playoffs. But it's just crazy about the Phillies because they're still 6 games up in the division. I mean, everybody went through that slump at the same time, it seemed.
Yeah,
the lesser teams jumped up. The Padres have really caught up to a lot of stuff. They've really turned that corner. That they're the team that, let me think now, for 2 years we've expected that team to come out.
Yeah,
and they finally have turned into that team. I mean, their payroll is one of the top 5 in the league. So it's funny how that works, isn't it, Jeffrey?
Well,
higher payroll, higher wins.
So. One of the things I wanted to discuss, and we can get into it here, is one of the things I like to do at this time of the year is just check around the different channels, read through different publications and websites, and just get a gauge for what people are expecting, thinking with the upcoming college football season, trying to get the latest news and all of that. One of the things that is, and we've kind of touched on this in various ways over the years, but I just, it is funny that I don't think we give enough appreciation, understanding, and at the end of the day, just the realization of the importance of having the money in place, whether we're talking professional sports, but I'm talking here about college football specifically, because what we inevitably get into, and what started my line of thinking here is I was listening to Paul Feinbaum, which I always do, at my own peril. I understand that. But Feinbaum was, they were talking about Penn State. And he's like, I think Penn State's a fine team. James Franklin's an okay coach. He's certainly not one of the elite. And that's a widely held position. I'm not saying it's necessarily wrong. But his contention was, Kirby's smart. Now, there's an elite coach. Now, I'm not going to tell you that Kirby's not a terrific coach, but look at the resources available there at the University of Georgia. And the resources are there for the Dodgers. The resources are there for the Yankees. It's the nature of the world. There are always going to be the haves and the have-nots, if you will. But what is amazing to me is the consistency with which, especially in college football, we apply, well, this is all coaching. Well, you put Kirby Smart
Yep.
at West Virginia, I think Kirby would do well. I
Yep.
think he is a really good coach.
Mhm.
He's not winning national titles.
Correct.
And as always, I think with all of these things, it is getting everything lined up in the right way. Cale Sanderson, I think is the greatest coach ever, period, any sport. Biased opinion, I'll admit that. But the way he operates, and it's not just him, it's that staff, the way those guys go about their business, and the dedication, the attention to detail, looking at every component, figuring out how they can, within the rules, do everything they can to create winning opportunities for their kids, the whole bit. And what they have going at Penn State is fantastic. If you put Cale Sanderson in charge of Ohio University Wrestling would become terrific, much, much better than it is. And it's not awful, by the way, now, but no question, it would be miles ahead.
Sure.
And Cale would do, but the resources are not going to be there for him to establish what he has here.
Yep.
There are resources available. They are you have the name recognition, all of that. Again, my point here is not to make the contention that James Franklin is a better coach than Kirby Smart or whatever.
It's what you're buying now.
It is, yes, and it is the entire thing. I think
I want to jump in on this.
Okay, but I think I talked to you earlier this summer. We got into a discussion. So some friends and I were out at dinner, and there was a person there that was not, I think it's fair to say, not pro Franklin. And she's like, he just, how can you think that he's a good coach? He keeps losing to Ohio State. He keeps doing this. I'm like, well, he's very competitive, very consistently. I said the last couple of years, he's won all the games he's supposed to. There's nobody over the last decade who is out there beating Ohio State consistently. And most importantly, and then we got derailed on this, but I'm like, again, Franklin is whatever. I keep forgetting to look it up. But he's, for the longest time, was the 10th or 11th highest paid coach. I'm actually guessing that might be he's probably a little lower than that. I'm guessing probably 12th or 13th now. Regardless, I said, Penn State, with the investment that it is making, not just in Franklin, but in the football program, they are consistently in the top 10. Correct. I think they're getting more value for their dollar than these teams that are winning or contending for national titles. And, Ohio State in particular, you're talking about the program that has the most funding in the country, more than Alabama, more than
funny how it works like that, right?
Isn't it crazy? And all you need to do, so my exhibit A here, nobody anywhere would dispute Nick Saban's greatness as a head coach. Do you think it is a coincidence that we learned to really appreciate, and Nick Saban came into his own as a coach? It wasn't while he was at Michigan State, Goon. But why could that be? It wasn't while he was at LSU.
Nope.
And by the way, LSU invests pretty substantially in their football program. Lo and behold, we realized his greatness when he got to Alabama. When you look at Bill Belichick, again, the point here is not that Nick Saban isn't a great coach or that Bill Belichick, they may very well be the greatest coaches in college and professional football ever. Belichick, oddly enough, was not winning Super Bowls when he was with the Cleveland Browns, Goon. It is almost as though the organization matters. Mm-hmm. The support staff, all of the things that come into play. Again, the head coach, I'm not saying is not important, is not a difference maker, but just as we have talked about over the years, if you give me a roster loaded with 5-star recruits and I'm in average X's and O's coach, and you put on the other side whoever you think is the greatest X's and O's coach in the history of the sport, and they get a couple of 5-star recruits, a couple of 4-star recruits, and a bunch of 3-star recruits. Who do you think is winning the head-to-head matchup at least 8 or 9 times out of the 10 meetings? I'll help you out.
Yep.
It's not the greatest X's and O's coach in history. It is not. So
got the most toys.
Sorry.
So got the toys. So 40 years ago, we widely considered Joe Paterno to be the best coach in college football at that point.
Yep.
Because he had the resources. The resources back then were recruiting. And we had about a 15-state lockdown. You know, we were going into Ohio and getting Todd Blackledge, going into Ohio, going into New Jersey, dominating Jersey, Maryland, Virginia, New York. The whole Northeast, the whole Mid-Atlantic and Northeast was Penn State territory. So the resources, a.k.a., you know, who had the most resources back in the day, that was Penn State at that point, in my opinion. And then, lo and behold, wow, we go and play for 3 out of 5 national championships in a 5-year window between 82 and 87. I mean, that's where the difference is. Now, you can still say it's recruiting because the recruiting now has moved. Like, the state of Georgia is producing such an amount of players. It's up there with Florida and Texas and California around the amount of people that are coming out of it. And that was are the jobs opening up down there and more people are moving down into the Georgia area? Is that what's going on? But, you know, you could say Kirby is, you know, he's the best coach in the country right now. He has the most resources. He has the highest paid team. But he also has the recruiting area is enormous that he had down there. It's very fertile, just like Joe's was back in the 80s here, 70s and 80s. So that has changed. But with the Franklin thing, I'm with you. I mean, it's you know, he's a top 15 paid coach. So what amazingly, look at the parallels between what you're paying your coaches and what your facilities are and what your budget is as compared to where your team is ranked right now. It's very, very similar. It's almost like, wow, what's going on here? It's almost like they work together, Headley. I mean, Kirby, yeah, you know, he is the best coach right now, but he also has the best product. I mean, and it's like Nick Saban said 10 years ago. The difference in the Super Bowl, or the difference in the NFL and the NCAA is this: I win a Super Bowl, I'm drafting last in that every round of that in the next draft.
Yeah.
When you're in college, you win a national title, they give you the top 5 players in the country. I mean, yeah, think about that. The rich get richer in this sport, and it always has been. I mean, it's that's the way it is. But you know, Saban said that, so it was so correct in what he said. He goes, "That's the difference." He goes, "You know, in the NFL, you know, you're picking 32nd, so you don't know what you're going to get. You don't know how the draft's going to go, and this and that. When you're in college and you win a national title, they give you the top 5 players in the country. I mean, think about that. Replace that. You're just replenishing your team, and it's tough to be at the top and then maintain, but it's also tough to come out of being one of the top teams. I mean, it takes a lot. And Kirby there might be some off-field issues that might come to his power, might start his downfall, the peril of him type of thing, because you do have to take care of so much nowadays. And that's no different than what Joe had. I mean, there's more issues now. There's more ways to get in trouble, I should say. How's that sound? More ways to get in trouble than there was back in the day. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, I think that's I think that's right. I also I do think,
oh Lord,
while the money is certainly more now, and Joe Paterno was never. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and make it that he was so altruistic that he didn't pay attention to it. I mean, he was well paid, but he was never about, hey, I need to be, you know, national titles. It was, I need to be the highest paid. To his credit, he instead said, hey, national titles, we need to become more of a world-class university.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where he used his leverage and power. But, yeah, there is more. While the money is substantially more for coaches and for, well, now everybody involved with
yeah, we
athletics,
forgot that part of it.
it is also you're right. There is a lot more now that you are having to keep track of, and that you are, and many things that are outside of your control, which drives coaches and most of us crazy. Like right. Most of us want
it has to be frustrating for a
of our
coach.
life, our job, to whatever degree we can gain it. Football coaches even more so, because listen, they'll get criticized for, they're control freaks or this or that. Well, if you're not
a control freak, you're not a good football coach.
You darn well better be, because your job, as Joe Paterno famously said, is dependent on the decision making of 18 to 23 now-year-old males.
Yep.
Well, look around now. There are some wonderful males making great choices, no question. But your odds in those 18 to 23 males of some people maybe not making the best decisions are pretty substantial. So, you need to control what you can control. You need to set the parameters, all of that. And with all of these changes, there is less control for the coaches. Yes, you can talk to your players, talk to recruits, talk to other potential players coming in from other programs. That is in your control, but the decision making, right, is obviously always up to the.
Can you imagine Kirby Smart getting a phone call and saying, "Hey, coach, we had another car accident, another issue with a car"? I mean, it's like 10 incidences in Georgia. If he is not telling me, and it's not like he's not saying, "Guys, geez, let's relax, stop, chill out." It has to be so frustrating for him to he's telling these guys to stop doing this stuff and this and that, and then they go out and do it and get in trouble and hurt some more people or hurt themselves, or they get in trouble with it. It has to be super frustrating. It has to be.
Yes.
And then, is he at the point where he's not going to dump a 5-star for getting in trouble? And that's where I've said it for 4 years now. I would not want to be in college coaching right now. It is
very, very tough.
Man,
there are
craziness, man. I mean, there might be players in this country who are making more than their head coaches. Have we crossed that threshold yet?
That's a good question.
There are players that are definitely making more than assistant coaches.
It is certainly possible.
And you're 17 to 23-year-old kids now, and you're going to give this kid more money than a person who's telling him how to live his life. How is that kid going to act? I'm not saying, but I mean, I've seen it. You've seen it. I've seen it. We've all talked about it. It's like, man, it's tough. It's a brutal thing. I mean, it happens in the NFL, but again, these guys are supposedly mature men in the NFL, which is obviously one of the farthest things from the truth. But now, instead of being a 23 to 35-year-old man in the NFL with millions of dollars, you may have a 17-year-old kid who has more money than a guy who's trying to tell him how to live his life and what to do and what not to do. That's scary.
Well, and along those lines, I think one of the tough things for probably right now many of these coaches is things that they have been told are wrong, you cannot do. And I think to some degree, many in the business, and certainly many of us covering the business, it's like, well, no, that's morally wrong. Well, now, not only is it permitted, if you are not doing it, you are not giving your program a chance to have any kind of sustained success.
Yeah.
And we've talked about it with the NIL stuff. You can not like it. You can think it's a bad thing. But if you are involved in competitive college sports, you better be doing all you can on that front. Now, all you can, again, is going to be different at Rutgers University or at pick your school, Texas Tech. That it's going to be different there than it is at Penn State, than it is at Alabama, than it is at Texas or USC or Ohio State.
Of course. I mean, we haven't. I guess I've wanted to talk about this for but I haven't because we're just waiting on it. And that's the Michigan scandal. So Ohio State people have it's scary the amount of time they worry about this scandal at Michigan and what they're worried about. But somebody made a good point, and it was like they lowered the boom on Jim Tressel.
Yeah.
For something that is completely legal right now.
Correct.
Like, think about, I mean, it has to be like, wow. I mean, there are many circumstances where it's like, well, that's legal now versus what it was before. But that to me is because they're sitting there saying, you ran Jim Tressel out of college football because of this, because they said his lie. Right? Is that not what Jim Harbaugh did twice? Yep. And I am of the ilk that, you know what, it's time to move on. Harbaugh's gone. He's banished. Put an asterisk next to the title. I don't know, but don't punish the kids that are in there now. That's where I'm at on this whole thing because it's so dumb to punish the kids that are in the team right now for something that happened before, when there's probably 30 or 40 guys from that era, But Ohio State, they have it's crazy to think about how much of a bone they have with Michigan when it comes to that and the scandal and stuff like that, and how much they want blood. But me, I'm just like, just move on. Let's just go on, move on. But the tattoo gate is what got me in. And somebody said they ran Jim Tressel out of college football because he lied. And Jim Harbaugh just skates over to L.A., and he's the head coach of an NFL team. By the way, did you see what Michigan did? They rescinded the offer of him being the captain.
Yeah.
It's his parents now.
Yeah. So this is one of the things that I think the NCAA and probably schools have struggled with all along. Because while I am with you as far as it goes, like, let's move on.
Yep.
Jim Harbaugh's out of there. At the same time, if there is no punishment, then what's
stopping other people?
What is the incentive for other programs, other coaches to do the right thing? Now, this has been an issue and complained about for decades, and I don't know. One of the problems is that, like, what instinctively I would say is, well, just right into the contract of the coaches. Hey, if we get hit with NCAA sanctions, this amount of money has to be paid back, and this something.
Yeah.
I mean, so that it is a direct punishment. A couple of problems are, one, you would have to differentiate between major sanctions and minor sanctions.
Yeah.
One of the problems there is, as we've been talking about, something that was a major sanction 5 years ago is not a sanctionable offense. It's not an offense at all now.
Yeah.
And we're going to get into, I mean, the NCAA defines major sanctions and minor infractions.
They call them tier 1 and tier 2, right?
Correct.
Okay.
But the impact to a school can change with that. And you also then have to prove, and this would be difficult in the Michigan case, while you may know that, hey, we caught you. We know what happened here. Proving that, if Jim Harbaugh says, no, I had absolutely no idea. Well, you now have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt in a court of law, if that's the route you go, right, that, well, now you're spending money, if you're the school I'm talking about, going after a coach that just brought you a national championship. This is a hypothetical, by the way, obviously. Well, that seems unlikely.
Yeah.
So that this is, I don't know what the answer is, and maybe there's not one, but you would like, I mean, I would like to live in a world where, we just all play fair. Nobody's trying to scam people over the phone with getting bank accounts and all. I want desperately to live in that world. world where all of the coaches
I knew you were a Nigerian prince, Ironhead.
Agree that by God, we're just going to play by the rules as they're laid out. We're going to do everything that is clearly within those rules to give our kids the best chance to succeed, and then that's it. I'd like to live in the world where all of the kids say, yeah, you know what, we just, we're going to give ourselves the best chance at highest performance by eating right, by doing the right things, by getting the right amount of sleep. But my gosh, we're not gonna. We would never look at blood doping or steroids or anything like that. That'd be awesome. It's a wonderful thought. The problem is, you're going to have people, and by the way, I think there's also a misperception that all of these people, it's like, well, yeah, you knowingly made a bad decision. Well, if something is gray area, right? And you're like, well, I think this is going to help my kids. I'm trying to help my kids. Jerry Tarkanian is, by some, the worst villain in the history of sports. And by others, it's like, well, no, that's a dude that really was taking kids from very tough backgrounds and doing truly everything he could to help them. Well, it depends. You can, as with most people, there's good in us, there's bad in us, and where we draw the lines is going to be differently. And it's the same with everything. I mean, there are people, if I am taking advantage of tax loopholes, I'm a company, well, you could argue, well, that's my fiducial responsibility. I would not be doing a service to our stockholders or to our employees or to the company itself by not taking advantage
everything
of
legally
the loopholes that are there. Right. Well, others are going to look at that and say, well, yeah, but man, you look at the money. Well, right. I didn't write the laws, and it's the same thing. Now, again, this is a violation of law.
Yeah.
But even there, right, we're going to get a lot of people, there's a big thing with the election this year on the tips. Well, a little secret here, not every person that gets tips has declared every cent that they've received over the years.
Just the credit card one. Just the one you can document.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Not the cash.
I think it's just a couple of people somewhere along the way.
Jeff,
maybe.
how dare you?
But so even there, it's like, well, okay, yes, by the letter of the law, right? And we're going to draw, different people are going to draw. It's like, well, yeah, okay. If you're at a stoplight and you can see both directions and it's 5 a.m. and there is nobody there and the light has now been red for 60 seconds, well, you can't legally turn left. Well, okay, but if I do it and nobody sees me and there's no harm, I don't think I've really done anything wrong. I haven't put anybody. Well, if a police officer sees you do that, guess what? It doesn't matter whether you think that or not. Clearly, by the letter of the law. And again, some people are going to say, yeah, you just need to sit there. Others are going to say, well, no, after 30 seconds, if you can see there's nobody around, nobody crossing, nothing, you can go. So we're all going to have different places. And again, some of this stuff, when it gets back to the coaching, it's like, yes, 99% of us are going to agree. Well, no, you've gone too far. That's wrong. That's clearly laid out, and you blatantly cheated. But there's a lot more situations where it's like, well, okay, yeah, you probably cheated.
I have my argument set up, by the way.
Yep.
So my buddy Scotty, whose son plays at Michigan, I'm going to use the Booch argument. Would he have gone to Michigan when he was a high school senior 3 years ago?
I think
would he have gone to Michigan if they were 7-4, 7-5, 6-6, 8-4? You know what I mean? And I'm going to use that argument with Booch's argument, being when they were supposed, because I will repeat myself here, and that is that they still had to beat 4 top 10 teams last year in the last 6 weeks of that season, and how they did it was very impressive. And this was under the scrutiny of everybody. and Harbaugh not being there for 3 of those games. That was impressive. And I said they still won that national title, and I could agree with that. But what Booch said is, yes, but you have to look at if they were scouting 58 games for the last 6 years, were they really an undefeated team? 2 years ago when they went to the playoff, was that a real playoff team, or did they cheat to get there? And by cheating and having great records, did they get more recruits? And that's an argument right there, and that's a heck of an argument in my opinion. That Booch gave me, because I'm like, let's go move on, move on with that. But it's like, and then you make the argument, well, if they're not going to punish them, why are we not doing something similar? Why are we not doing this, doing that? It's a slippery slope there. Again, this is why we're on radio and not actually have professional jobs where we have to make these decisions and figure these problems out, Jeffrey.
Yeah, much easier.
We're much better at contradicting and telling people how to live their lives.
Exactly right.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Let's go to a break, Jeff. Let's go to a break.
Let's
Jeff, we're going to break right now.
We're doing it, baby. And we're coming right back with more of the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead show.
Coast into fall with a new Kia from Lion Country Kia. Right now, get a 24 Kia Seltos for 5.25% APR for up to 48 months. A new Sportage plug-in hybrid at 0.9% APR. Check out our 23 Sorrento hybrid for as low as 4.5% APR. And don't forget, all 2023 and 2024 Kias come with a 10-year, 100,000-mile limited warranty. Stop in and meet with one of our sales experts today and coast into fall at Lion Country Kia. We want to see you in a Kia.
If you love wings, if you love rings, and all kinds of other tempting things, great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak Lube.
Get our Best Wings USA, signature sauces, mouth-watering appetizers, or any of our delicious award-winning lube favorites.
Great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak Lube.
The Center Hall Farm Store has been serving Center County and beyond for well over a half century. A small family business, the Center Hall Farm Store specializes in animal nutrition and manufactures its feed fresh using local ingredients. Get the best in horse, cow, pig, chicken, and bird feeds. If you're not already a customer, stop in and see why so many of your neighbors are. The Center Hall Farm Store at 110 West Allison Street in Center Hall, or call us at 814-364-1393.
The State College Spikes are hitting the field all summer long. Enjoy fun, affordable family entertainment as the future of baseball is on display in Happy Valley. Spikes games have something for everyone at the new-look Medler Field at LeBron Park. From great giveaways to fantastic deals, from special appearances to plenty of fireworks, all the way through September 3rd. For tickets, call 814-272-1711 or get the schedule and buy and download at statecollegespikes.com.
Ready to be part of something bigger? Come pave the road to success at Glen O'Habaker and discover a career where your hard work and determination can build a bigger, better future. Our team believes we can build a stronger future together. Join us at Glen O'Habaker, where we value teamwork on the field and on the job. Go to GOHcareers.com to apply. GOHcareers.com. And best of luck to all the Center County sports teams all season long from everyone at Glen O'Habaker.
With a Timber Kids savings account, you can start to save money, earn prizes, and teach your kids the value of savings. It's easy as 1, 2, 3. Building futures is what we do at TFCU.
You really need to belong to a credit union. You belong at TFCU, Timberland Federal Credit Union, a credit union you can grow with.
The Goon and Ironhead.
And we welcome you back in here on a Thursday afternoon as
Beauty Day.
We get ready for the weekend. 8 days away from the start of the high school football season here in the Keystone State. Just unbelievable to me. Announced earlier today that the Frozen Confines series will be held at Wrigley Field.
I did see
in
this.
Chicago, and should be a lot of fun. So this is one of the things that I think there are going to be more really cool, fan-friendly opportunities to watch college sports as we move forward.
Different
we've
college
talked,
sports.
Yes, we've talked about how the Pat Kraft is very open and listen, and all of these universities and athletic programs need to be to, hey, let's try something new. Let's try this. Could we do a wrestling meet in Beaver Stadium? Could we do a hockey game in Beaver Stadium? Could we do this? Could we put the athletes over here and have a fun event doing these types of things? There's going to be all kinds of things tried, and some of them will work, some of them won't. That's fine. I think it's going to be neat to see. This is going to work. The Frozen Confines, they're going to have a series, basically a mini Big Ten tournament, if you will. I love it. Out at Wrigley Field in late December, early January. Penn State will open up against Notre Dame. That'll actually be the first game of the series at Wrigley, and it's just going to be really cool, really fun, and a great showcase for Wrigley Field, for college hockey in general, for Big Ten hockey, and for obviously each of the programs, including Penn State and Notre Dame. And I can hardly wait. I think it's
January 3rd.
Super cool.
So the Blackhawks are playing out there regular, right? That's just what we're doing.
Yeah.
So it's an NHL game, but there's going to be a Big Ten game wrapped around it, wrapped amongst it, right?
Well, it's a series of
But it's one NHL game.
Correct.
Yeah, because I had talked to Pat about. I mean, I had an idea for the stadium, whatever, the Beaver Stadium Challenge, and that is we got to get Philly, we get the Flyers, the Penguins. But I was like, well, it's Terry Pagula. They got the Buffalo Sabres down here. So my idea was 3 days, 3 games. Flyers, Sabres Friday, Flyers, Pens Saturday, and then the Sabres, Pens on Sunday. But NHL would not do that. But doing that with the college playoff game, that's amazing. So there's 4 days of games, right?
Yeah, so the Blackhawks and the Blues will square off on New Year's Eve,
the 31st,
and then they will have the series, the college part of the series, which will have Penn State and Notre Dame at 4 p.m. on January 3rd, and that'll be followed by Ohio State against Michigan. That'll be at 7:30, same day, January 3rd. And then the second doubleheader on January 4th, we'll have Wisconsin against Michigan State. And then Wisconsin against Michigan State in women's hockey. And then that game will be at 8, the men's game at 4:30. And then all 6 men's teams playing in the series, ranked in the top 20 in national polls at some point during this past season. Michigan State, and Wisconsin all finished in the top 10 in the final rankings. And, of course, Michigan was in the Final 4. Tickets for the Frozen Confines games, by the way, go on sale on August 30th.
That's my question.
End of this month at 10 a.m. And you can get them at Cubs.com/Big Ten Hockey. Cubs.com/Big Ten
January
Hockey.
3rd is a Friday afternoon.
Separate ticket is required
That's my
for
question.
each day of this series.
So
Correct.
you would get
Each
Ohio
day
State, Michigan, and
of
Penn
this
State,
series.
Notre Dame.
Penn State, Notre Dame. Yep. So, yeah, it'll be pretty neat opportunity. And I think you're going to see more things like this as we move down the road, where it's like, hey, yeah, let's try, these. And by the way, it's not like this is brand new. I mean, we've had Minnesota. Oh my gosh, Minnesota Wrestling went to Hawaii and did they had some matches out on the beach. This is going back a few years ago now. So and obviously Iowa and Oklahoma State have the wrestling match at Kinnick. So I mean, there are. I don't want to make it sound like this is brand new.
No.
Obviously, we've had. Michigan State has had
we've played basketball on an outdoor aircraft, on an indoor aircraft carrier, on an aircraft carrier.
Yeah. But I think some of these
that's cool.
These opportunities. So if you come to, how cool is it that by coming to one of the schools that's participating here, aside from all of the other cool things that happen, now you're going to get to play a hockey game in Wrigley Field, or you think about the Penn State basketball players that have been able to play in Madison Square Garden, at the Palestra, along with all of the other cool venues. I mean, there's creating those experiences. I hope is still kind of the focus. There's no way around the money and the importance of money in college athletics, even more so now. And again, it's always been. I understand that, or has been certainly since the 70s on. And to a lesser degree, even before that. But when you look at what I think the hope is, right, is like talking to the Penn State wrestlers, and it'll be interesting to see 5 years from now what this group looks back on and, hey, man, it was, the paycheck, or is it going to be, no, you know what, it was really cool. I know that the ones to this point, like, you talk to them, one of the first things that almost always comes up is, boy, it was cool to be in the Jordan Center. Like those Jordan Center meets were so awesome. I'm so glad I had a chance to be part of that. The rest.
Who doesn't say that?
And so I think those opportunities are going to be very important.
Sure.
Who doesn't say that?
Well, I don't think Kale likes it because he likes the nuttier, smaller confines of the.
He likes how he doesn't want it to be there permanently, but in part because it would like I don't think if they wrestled every match there, you're not going to have that reaction from the wrestlers.
Let me think. I'm trying to think.
Certainly, if they do pull off, a Beaver Stadium meet, whether it's this year or next year, or like whoever gets to participate in that. Right, like that is going to be a career highlight. There's no way around it.
I want to get this out there, because it'll be stolen eventually. But I want Oklahoma State to come and wrestle Penn State in the Beaver Stadium.
Yeah,
and you know what I want to happen at the end?
To be the first dual meet of David Taylor.
And I said it before. What I want to see happen, and I want to see David go out at the end of the meet and leave his shoes, even though he's, not wrestling per se. But I don't think he got that send-off that he deserved. I really don't. And by the way, the Cuban folk-style guy, Greco, holy God. His 5th gold medal?
Yeah, it's...
Dude, that dude was an animal. Is that the same weight class in the same sport as the Russian dude that Roland Gardner beat?
Yes.
What's up with that one? I mean, it's like savages and pun savages. That dude's a bad dude, man. Holy crap. When he left, but I told Carrie, and she says, and she goes, look, he's leaving his shoes out there. He's retiring. I said, you do listen. I was very impressed by that. But I do. I mean, you've heard me say it a million times. That is the coolest tradition. It's up there in the top 10, in my opinion, of anything in sport, of a tradition of leaving your spikes in there. But I want for David.
Sometime. Top traditions. I mean, they do it all the time with top traditions in college football, and the whiteout is.
Well, I know what number one is.
It's always in the top 10. There.
Number one started within the last 10 years.
But if you did all of sports, trying to that would be a good. I'd be curious to get people's.
Well, what's
take
your
on
my one
on that?
Will be and
for college football or for
everything.
Sports?
It is college football, but it is.
But it would be your top for everything.
Yeah, that's the Iowa way.
Iowa, yeah,
absolutely. I mean, the first time I saw that, I was like, dude, this has got to be, it's just got to be so fulfilling and great for those kids and stuff like that. I mean, that's just, and it's a new one. That's the thing. You rarely see new stuff come out and hit like the way it did. But the whiteout is there. I'm just trying to, I mean, Jeff, I don't know how to explain. And the only way I could explain it is just have other football players with me. But that is the drive up the hill to Beaver Stadium. I will put that up against anybody. I mean, I guess you could say Clemson does that. Like they leave the locker room and they bus over and then they run down the hill there. But I'm telling you, the emotion and the how jacked up you get. I don't know if I've ever really talked about it. Have I? Do you know what I'm talking about? The bus ride from the East Area locker room, Lash, over to the Beaver Stadium where they drop you off and they walk down. It's unbelievable. That is the one thing that I will never, ever forget. And you talk to anybody who played at Penn State football and say, was it worth it? And said, just those 7 bus rides a year were worth it. It was the greatest thing in the world. I will match it with anybody. Put it up against with anybody. But that's an inside tradition. That's not going to be a well-known outside of here. The whiteout has definitely, it's crazy how that's become one of those top 5 things in college football.
Yeah.
And again, doing the player show the last 3 years, you ask these players, every single one of them, well, I came up for the whiteout, and I just said, I got to be part of it. I came up for the whiteout. I mean, even wrestlers have to say that when they're on the recruiting business and coming to that whiteout. The atmosphere is just unbelievable. Well, give me some non-football traditions. Like I'm blanking right now a little bit.
Well, I mean, the green jacket ceremony for the Masters would certainly be.
I got you.
I think on at least most people's list, kissing the bricks at the Indy 500. I mean, there's
the milk.
Yeah,
I like drinking out of the Stanley Cup is awesome.
Yeah,
but each player getting one day with it is my favorite part.
The stories of the Stanley Cup is, that is.
I ever tell you this story? We're going to go. We'll go down the Goon path right now. So there was a story that the Stanley Cup was in the bottom of Mario Lemieux's pool.
Yeah.
Right? You know that story?
Yeah.
So I got hammered one night when I was at home back in the day. I think I was maybe home for a weekend or first 2 years out of college.
So there was a time where you partook in alcohol.
Yeah.
You son of a gun. I had not heard about
this. Just keep that on the down low. It was a rough time in my life. So.
I understand.
But I decided to use my brother's and his wife's patio furniture as Stanley Cups and throw them in the pool, just because I thought that tradition was so freaking cool to wake up the next day and see the Stanley Cup at the bottom of the pool right there. So I got woken up about 8 o'clock in the morning, and it was a non-pleasant call for my sister-in-law, and there was a lot of F's being involved. I don't know, where those words were coming from, but it was get your beep 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 down here and clean this beep 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 pull up you beep 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 beep, and I had to go down there very hungover and I cleaned my brother's pool out of all the patio furniture. That's because Mario Lemieux had the Stanley Cup in his bottom of his pool.
Gotcha.
Hey, that's a great tradition. I love that one. I'm trying to think if there's any NFL
different twist on it anyway.
NFL traditions. I don't really.
Going to Disney World, right? That's what that started with the NFL. I mean, that's probably for the MVP.
The MVP. Well, but didn't it get away from a player at one point and somebody else went? I don't know. It's weird. I'm just trying to think. I
mean, the Lambeau Leap. I mean, there's
that's a good one.
That's
a very good one.
The different fan bases that.
I'm sure there's some stuff in Europe that we don't even think about, but like European soccer traditions and type of things and World Cups, and that's pretty cool. I mean, kissing the gold medal, obviously. Biting the gold medal is the big thing nowadays.
Yeah, Yeah. I don't know. That'd be interesting sometime we'll have to.
The ESPN did that. They had that top tens, all this stuff and all that stuff. And yeah,
for overall traditions in sports.
That'd be pretty. No. I'm saying they did the college football one, and it was, but it was old. It was old school. It was like the Four Horsemen of the the 5 blocks of granite up in Fordham, that type of stuff. Pretty cool stuff. But yeah, not Richmond, but the Clemson running down the hill. That bus ride is pretty damn cool. Our whiteout, Virginia Tech's entrance that's pretty damn awesome. The Enter Sandman stuff. I've lived that. I was a fan of one of those games, and I was watching the Maryland Virginia Tech game on a Thursday night. I think it was 28-0 in the first quarter, and I was like, well, got to see what I wanted to see.
Yeah.
Let's get on the road here and head back to Richmond.
Yeah, Wisconsin's jump
Around is
up
pretty damn
there.
awesome. Ohio State, I don't get the whole marching, dotting of the I and stuff like that. That doesn't do anything for me. The Michigan Big Blue supports you, the sign thing. More pisses me off than anything else is how they have to run through your sideline to go jump on their flag. So that caused more arguments and this and that. And there's more than a couple Big Ten schools that actually have the teams cross going into the locker room at halftime and after the game. You're just asking for issues. Asking. Illinois does it. Ohio State does it. Michigan comes right across, right through your sideline, and they're backing you up. The Michigan Wolverines are coming. The Michigan Wolverines. I'm about ready to knock this guy out. It's like 60-year-old guy from Poughkeepsie, Michigan. Think he's the Michigan, the Big Blues coming through here. Yeah, you're right. We're gonna beat Big Blues booty today. So that's usually ended up what happening. So.
Yeah, I do think the
21 wall in Pittsburgh.
Yeah,
that's pretty freaking awesome.
Yeah,
I had to explain that when Pittsburgh was in Philly when I was at home a couple weeks ago. They say, "Why is it 21?" So that's Roberto Clemente's number, and it's 21 feet in the air. I find that the ultimate respect. It's really cool.
Yeah, no, it's there's a lot of good ones out there. I'd start delving into that stuff. Tell you what, we'll take.
It's our annual tradition of talking of how we've never gone down to the Little League World Series, Jeff.
Yeah,
that's a whole hour and 12 minutes away. And there's a Philly area team playing tonight.
Is that right?
Yeah, they're from down in Newtown in central Bucks area, Newtown in Bucks County. But they're playing a team from outside of the southeast of Texas. So, of course, I called my Texas people, and it turned into an Eagles-Cowboys shouting match pretty much.
Oh, boy.
As usual.
We will get down there this year. Matt Turtle's been wanting to go. We're going to Hershey on Saturday. So, got our Hershey Park fill in for the summer. But
do they have a water park there, or is that?
They do.
Okay. Is that like a same day type of thing, or is that no?
Yeah. We'll probably, I'm guessing we'll do the amusement park first and then the water park to finish up.
You ride?
That's my guess. Oh, yeah. Do
you really?
Yeah. Heck yeah.
Yeah, I'd be afraid. Just because of my spine. I don't need the jerking around. And I mean, obviously,
I can understand.
Forcing me into a seat would probably be scariest.
The wooden coasters, it just is uncomfortable now for me, and I like them, but man, it's like, I'm feeling it after. So might not be as keen on doing those. We're really curious. So the Mad Turtle last year broke his wrist about less than a week from when we went, or maybe I don't know. It was about a week from when we went, and he was still allowed to do most of the rides. He had the like a cast, but with padding on. But there were a couple of rides that he could not do, and the Super Duper Looper was one of them. And he was bummed about it. But then, because that and the Jolly Rancher Remix, which is what used to be. Now I'm going to forget the name of it because I am so confused by the names anymore.
I didn't know Jolly Rancher was part of the Hershey world.
A ride that I think is the rides. When I hear the names, I'm not associating them with the right rides. It turns out. So what I thought was the Jolly Rancher Remix was something else. And now I can't even remember what that used to be. But so the Mad Turtle was gung-ho. I'm going to do the Super Duper Looper, and I'm going to do Jolly Rancher Remix. And we got down there, and he's not permitted to do the Super Duper Looper, and he's like, nope, not doing. Looking at the Jolly Rancher Remix up close and in person, he's like, nope, not doing it. Ooh. So we are very gung-ho 2 days out here that, no, this year we're doing both, and we're super pumped and excited. 100% no doubt that we're doing it. I am really curious to see. I'll report to you on Tuesday whether or not we actually do one, both, or neither once we get down there. But at the moment, we're talking very bravely that we are all in on the those two rides in particular. Those are the two that we have built up as being the biggest obstacles or the most excitement anyway in our minds. So
Beautiful.
we will see how
I got faith in the
plays
turtle.
out.
He's going to pull it out.
I think he is too. I think he is too. Well, we'll see. We've thought that with different things before, but I actually he has talked it up so much that I think he's going to be disappointed in himself. Man, we keep telling him, like, if you get down there and you don't want to do it, like, it's not a big deal. But I think he has built it up now to where it's like, all right, I can't keep telling everybody I'm doing this stuff and then not do it, type of thing. So we'll see. I'm curious to see.
Very interesting.
I think he's going to end up doing both, though. We are going to take a break here. We are coming right back with more. It's the Lion Country Kia Goon Ironhead show here on
Coast into fall. Coast into fall with a new Kia from Lion Country Kia. Right now, get a 24 Kia Seltos for 5.25% APR for up to 48 months. A new Sportage plug-in hybrid at 0.9% APR. Check out our 23 Sorrento hybrid for as low as 4.5% APR. And don't forget, all 2023 and 2024 Kias come with a 10-year, 100,000-mile limited warranty. Stop in and meet with one of our sales experts today and coast into fall at Lion Country Kia. We want to see you in a Kia.
If you love wings, if you love rings, and all kinds of other tempting things, great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak Lube.
Get our Best Wings USA, signature sauces, mouth-watering appetizers, or any of our delicious award-winning lube favorites.
Great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak Lube.
The Center Hall Farm Store has been serving Center County and beyond for well over a half century. A small family business, the Center Hall Farm Store specializes in animal nutrition and manufactures its feed fresh using local ingredients. Get the best in horse, cow, pig, chicken, and bird feeds. If you're not already a customer, stop in and see why so many of your neighbors are. The Center Hall Farm Store at 110 West Allison Street in Center Hall, or call us at 814-364-1393.
The State College Spikes are hitting the field all summer long. Enjoy fun, affordable family entertainment as the future of baseball is on display in Happy Valley. Spikes teams have something for everyone at the new-look Medler Field at Lebrano Park. From great giveaways to fantastic deals, from special appearances to plenty of fireworks, all the way through September 3rd. For tickets, call 814-272-1711 or get the schedule and buy and download at statecollegespikes.com.
Ready to be part of something bigger? Come pave the road to success at Glen O'Habaker and discover a career where your hard work and determination can build a bigger, better future. Our team believes we can build a stronger future together. Join us at Glen O'Habaker, where we value teamwork on the field and on the job. Go to GOHcareers.com to apply. GOHcareers.com. And best of luck to all the Center County sports teams all season long from everyone at Glen O'Habaker.
With a Timber Kids savings account, you can start to save money, earn prizes, and teach your kids the value of savings. It's easy as 1, 2, 3. Building futures is what we do at TFCU.
You really need to belong to a credit union. You belong at TFCU, Timberland Federal Credit Union, a credit union you can grow with.
The Goon and Ironhead.
We welcome you back in here on a Thursday afternoon. Ohio State head coach Ryan Day says it will be Will Howard, the Kansas State transfer, who will be the starter at quarterback. And it will be interesting to see what happens with the other quarterbacks in the room there at Ohio State.
That is the downside to having all of this super talent on a team.
We're going to see whether or not it's a downside or not. I suspect that you are right.
I have an honest question. School has not started yet, right?
Correct.
So could a kid skedaddle out of Ohio State right now before school next week? Or is there like a window? I don't know. Do you know?
I don't know in terms of when they would be eligible type of thing. But Day says that Howard will be the starter for their opener, the highly anticipated showdown with Akron to launch the season for the Buckeyes.
And it's a huge season from them because like I told you, there's two teams I'm watching. You know the one being Ohio State.
Yep.
And then two is, obviously, we're watching Colorado, and I was talking to some people yesterday. It's like, I think Deion is starting to get a taste of his own medicine right now where he has talked so much garbage and acted so unprofessionally when it comes to coaching and doing a lot of the coaching thing, i.e. deal with the media. Guess what's going to happen? Cale Sanderson takes some grief sometimes. There is criticism of coaches. That's 100%. If you're not winning a million games, and Cale is winning a million matches, but, there is criticism that comes along with coaching.
Yeah.
And Deion cannot handle it. And it's been proven again and again. Now he's not talking to the CBS affiliate in Colorado, in Denver.
Yeah.
He's not talking to guys from ESPN because they're going to write a scathing article about him, about the locker room, the issues that came out of the locker room and all that. So now he just doesn't talk to people in the media. And it's like you're acting even more childish than the people you're supposedly coaching.
Yes, although it'll be interesting to see. You're right, how things progress or regress or whatever happens with Colorado. So I'm with you as far as it goes. That dealing with the media is just part of it. I do think some coaches and some athletes get too caught up in being media stars and not focused on tasks at hand. And I do think there are some that just don't, other than the bare minimum that's, you're obligated to, they shut down media access. And to be honest, I can understand it when you see some of the stories that come out where it's like, all right, what's the point of that?
Well, there are hit pieces there. There is for sure.
And if you're a coach, I mean, it's
protect
hard
your
to
guys.
know. Hey, I can trust this guy. Well, I trusted him up until I found out I couldn't trust him. And sometimes you can kind of sense right away, all right, this guy's angling for something. I don't want to feed him anything or her anything. And you can, I think most coaches, it's like, if the criticism is fair, if you're pointing out that, man, we've blown 3 leads late in games and the narrative is, hey, this team can't close out games. Well, that seems fair, right? Like, start closing out the games. So that, I think if you're fair about it, but there's also, how much access do you grant, and to what degree do you risk being burned, not just yourself, but, I think maybe more importantly for a lot of these coaches is, again, they're in charge of the care of the kids that are on their team. And in my mind, they're still kids. I know, we can debate that probably sometime too, but young adults at the very least. And you are trying to shield them from unnecessary angst and criticism. Now, these days, a lot of them are going to jump into it anyway. You can shield all you want, and if they go home and they look at the social media and get caught up in it, it's like, well, I shielded them, but they didn't shield themselves, and that's why, a lot of coaches will tell you. But now it's part of the branding too, so that you're trying to.
The article I saw, Prime, was this man wants to be called by a childhood nickname, but he also wants to be Mr. Professional about this and that. And it's like you can't have it both ways. And that's the issue I have with Deion. I just personally think that Deion is not going to never stop being Deion. And I think that when his kids are done, and the quarterback do you see him being a top 10 pick in the NFL draft? Have you watched him at all?
His kid, I mean, I've watched him.
I don't see the top 10
I
pick
haven't
thing.
broken it down enough to yes, I mean, what I saw,
Yeah.
And truthfully, after the first 5 games last year, I'm not sure. I'm trying to remember. I mean, I definitely didn't watch a game. I don't think I saw much of even, maybe watching
the late October
stuff,
game. They played Arizona State to like a triple overtime, and they were a 21-point favorite, if you remember.
Oh yeah, I do.
Yeah, so that was a big thing, and they were. I mean, I just whatever. And then you add in who's he add into the team? Warren Sapp.
Well,
to his defensive line and how he's in the news every day trying to make splashes and saying this and saying that to get his name out there and doing what he does. And
it will be interesting to see because part of the package now is the publicity part. I mean, it's always been part of it, but it is a bigger part now. Like the kids do want to go where they are, at least they perceive that they, are going to have a bigger platform. And certainly, I know, I mean, I have friends that criticize James Franklin for all of the appearances and stuff that he does. And it's like, well, again, you can have whatever opinion you want, but I will say, you're right. It'll be interesting to see long term. I do think, and there's different ways to go about it, and I understand that, but I do think making sure that you are letting recruits know that, if you come here, our program, and thus you, if you have success within it, are going to be highly visible. Now, you can argue that, if you go to Ohio State, you're going to be on TV every week. You go to Penn State, and actually, I guess most of the schools now, you're going to be on TV every week. But, I mean, getting national broadcast, national attention, all of that. And with that, you're going to have opportunities that you can create and that the schools will now help you create to cash in on it to whatever degree that you feel that's important. I am really going to be curious if in 5 years, one of the things, or maybe 10 years would be a better barometer, but even in 5 years, I am really interested to, and I don't know that, I'm sure there will be people doing this, but it's like, let's pick 50 athletes, maybe more than that. And let's get a few that transferred at least 3 times during their collegiate careers. Let's get ones that stayed but never had the success that they wanted. Like, I'm really curious to just hear, once we get into this a little ways, what is it when people look back on their careers? It was like, man, that was awesome. I got to make, $2 million and I was a starter. And listen, there's going to be people that, and this is with anything across the board. Like there are going to be people that it's like, they're going to make huge money.
Yep.
They are going to be wildly successful and they're going to go on and be successful. They're going to be smart with their money and it's going to be wonderful, feel-good stories, all good stuff. There's going to be people that make a lot of money, blow it, get trashed by former teammates and coaches, and end up down and out. And again, I'm not blaming even. I mean, that happens now. Like there are people that go to the NFL. I think less like the leagues, and I think the colleges are doing. I don't think this is going to be a common thing but it's going to happen. No matter what you're told,
sure.
if depending on your background and what your priorities are, and the people that you allow yourself to associate with, right? Like that all, and NFL teams, right, set it up and they talk to their athletes all the time about
True.
it.
Doesn't matter.
I don't know about all the time.
Well, doesn't matter though.
Introduction, right? But you still have guys that it's like, all right, I'm spending it left and right, and it's going to be here forever, and then they're not in great shape. But I do think the majority of guys now and maybe it always was, but I mean, the majority of guys, since the money has become huge, yeah, that they are smart enough to, not saying they're smart with all of their money, but I think they're smart enough, like, yeah, all right, we're going to set this aside. That's going to be there, and, know how to manage it and to work all of the different aspects of it. But that's always going to be the case. But what I'll be curious to hear, if we can get some stories done on this on the national front, like when you look back on your career, is it the same things that ultimately do stick out? Is it that bus ride over to the field? Is it those special moments? Or does some of that stuff start to wane in terms of what they perceive? One of the more heartening things for me recently was talked last week, but I got to go to an NIL event for the wrestling team, and it was mostly freshmen. I think Levi Haynes and Tyler Kasak were the only upperclassmen there, and talked with the freshmen about why they chose Penn State, and it was open-ended, and what they were hoping to get out of their careers, like where they envisioned themselves in 5 years. And they had certainly some specific goals, some of them individually, winning 4 national titles, going undefeated, being part. Every one of them mentioned, I want to be part of championship teams every year I'm here. Like, the team component was definitely big. But most of them talked about they just wanted to be part of this culture. They wanted to become the best they could be, and they felt, both as a person and as a wrestler, that there was no doubt in their mind that they could do that here with the support that's in place. I know we talk all of the time about the NIL, the transfer portal, and rightfully so. I mean, it's a big part of college athletics now. But I really do wonder if at the end of the day, most of the kids, most of the families, man, we want some money here. We want to cash in for sure. But
I think the biggest,
we want to become better people, set ourselves up for success, meaning impact on society. Financial success is part of it, no doubt. But I want to have a positive experience that I can look back on fondly, have teammates that are become friends for life. And I think I'll be curious. I think still the majority of folks that's what they want. And I think, I'm hoping anyway, that is what they will get. It's still going to, at the end of the day, be, man, it was really cool to sit around with the team in anticipation of that big game, and win or lose. It's like, man, I remember the butterflies going out. I remember the specific plays that changed the game. But I also remember, man, the reaction of being with my teammates and coaches after
I've always the travel always got us and stuff like that, and us fat guys talk about who had the best food on the road. I mean, it's actually rather funny that a lot of us still talk about the Iowa corn, but we also talk about the Iowa locker room, and the stuff that we experienced together and stuff like that. So that'll definitely be a thing. I'm noticing that I got about a 25-person group text message with a lot of my guys from the 91 class about the reunion coming up, and just the stories, and it's just crazy. You're just like, oh my God, I totally forgot about that. But then you go right back to 1992, 1993, 4, and all that stuff. So
crazy how quick
I can't believe it's 30 years. So.
Nick checks in. Like the lottery winners, some will spend money on gold dog collars and others on IRAs.
Ooh.
And and that's actually a great point too. I mean, how many times do you hear about lottery winners that are just down and out and have horrible
my lottery winners?
But there's also a bunch that it's like, no, that was transformative and generational money, and they set themselves.
It
and
might
their
be
families
gone
up for life.
But you have a lot of stuff and a lot of memories. So,
that's a great point.
Yeah.
I think when you at the end of the day, I really do think it's still, for most of these guys, about the experience and, trying to win championships, whether it's conference championship, national title, whatever. I think most of the kids that are going to these schools, even the big time programs where the big time money is, I still think that's a big deal for most, certainly not all. Take a short break here. We are coming right back with more. It is the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead show.
Coast into fall with a new Kia from Lion Country Kia. Right now, get a 24 Kia Seltos for 5.25% APR for up to 48 months. A new Sportage plug-in hybrid at 0.9% APR. Check out our 23 Sorrento hybrid for as low as 4.5% APR. And don't forget, all 2023 and 2024 Kias come with a 10-year, 100,000-mile limited warranty. Stop in and meet with one of our sales experts today and coast into fall at Lion Country Kia. We want to see you in a Kia.
If you love wings, if you love rings, and all kinds of other tempting things, great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak Lube.
Get our Best Wings USA, signature sauces, mouth-watering appetizers, or any of our delicious award-winning lube favorites.
Great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak Lube.
The Center Hall Farm Store has been serving Center County and beyond for well over a half century. A small family business, the Center Hall Farm Store specializes in animal nutrition and manufactures its feed fresh using local ingredients. Get the best in horse, cow, pig, chicken, and bird feeds. If you're not already a customer, stop in and see why so many of your neighbors are. The Center Hall Farm Store at 110 West Allison Street in Center Hall, or call us at 814-364-1393.
The State College Spikes are hitting the field all summer long. Enjoy fun, affordable family entertainment as the future of baseball is on display in Happy Valley. Spikes games have something for everyone at the new-look Medler Field at LeBron Park. From great giveaways to fantastic deals, from special appearances to plenty of fireworks, all the way through September 3rd. For tickets, call 814-272-1711 or get the schedule and buy and download at statecollegespikes.com.
Ready to be part of something bigger? Come pave the road to success at Glen O'Habaker and discover a career where your hard work and determination can build a bigger, better future. Our team believes we can build a stronger future together. Join us at Glen O'Habaker, where we value teamwork on the field and on the job. Go to GOHcareers.com to apply. GOHcareers.com. And best of luck to all the Center County sports teams all season long from everyone at Glen O'Habaker.
With a Timber Kids savings account, you can start to save money, earn prizes, and teach your kids the value of savings. It's easy as 1, 2, 3. Building futures is what we do at TFCU.
You really need to belong to a credit union. You belong at TFCU, Timberland Federal Credit Union, a credit union you can grow with.
The Goon and Ironhead.
And we welcome you back in here on a Thursday afternoon. Darn good-looking Thursday at that, as we hurtle ever closer to the start of college football season. And, of course, part of the fun as college football fans is predicting, trying to know ahead of time or guess ahead of time how things are going to play out. I'm with Goon. I think Ohio State, while I think it is more likely than not that Ohio State does have an absolutely sensational season, as most are predicting, I still think the potential for that thing to go off the rails is very real, with all of the talent and egos that they brought in. I do think Ryan Day is one of the better coaches out there in terms of getting people to check their ego at the door and to understand that the program, and we talk a lot about James Franklin. I do think it's one of the great strengths of James Franklin is that, hey, you're coming in here, you're part of our team, Penn State family, and we're doing things in the best interest of the family. But I think Ryan Day is right there in terms of creating that culture. I think that the challenge is greater this year just because of the number of guys who, were not brought up in that culture. I mean, they may have been brought up in a team first culture, but just not at Ohio State. So I think getting all of that talent to gel and to, truly put team first, I think that's a challenge. I also think it's, again, more likely than not that Ohio State will be up to the task of keeping those guys on track and with that team first mentality. But and it's interesting because I think the naming the starting quarterback, Will Howard again was named as the starter. That is the transfer from Kansas State. I think naming him at this early, relatively speaking, but not waiting till game week or even to the that first game, I think it lessens the chance of a divided locker room. Now, we're also not around practice. Maybe it was just so painfully obvious that everybody was on the same page anyway. It's like, well, no, the guy that's completing all of the passes
who's been running the ones all
deserves to
months.
be the guy over all of these guys who are completing a lot of passes, but not. So maybe it was just painfully obvious that Howard was the guy. But I think even if there are some guys that are like, no, I was more in this guy, it's like, well, now, okay, but now you know who the starter is. You're going to have another week plus of practice under your belt, and then you're into game week. And I think it's less likely that there's any kind of real riff within the locker room that leads to problems in that regard.
In the world we live in now, my personal opinion is I think that they let the other three guys know, like, hey, this is the starter going forward. If you want to go.
Yeah.
I mean, as crazy and as stupid as that sounds, this is the world we live in now. Like, as a player, again, you and I are the same way. And I do personally feel like the transfer portal is for quarterbacks. That's how I feel about it, is because there is only one quarterback. You can make a receiver into a tight end or a safety or a defensive back, a linebacker into a defensive end, tackle into a guard. A quarterback is a quarterback. And I think that these guys having a week or two, I mean, do they transfer to say somewhere else and then possibly play this year?
With rare exceptions. There have been guys. I mean, Dan Kendra ended up. I'm just saying.
Well, I don't think Kendra was.
I hear what you're saying.
I know.
I know.
I got you. But I'm just like, it's just like, I feel like quarterbacks, it's like they're, it's like, and if I'm Day, you do this out of respect to these guys, and the other guys are watching. They're watching.
I think getting that communicated, I'm with you, and again, I do think Ryan Day, for whatever Ohio State fans think of him, I do think he does a really good job with the culture part of it at Ohio State as well.
He's different,
and I also think he, much like James Franklin, is really good at communicating honestly where players are at. I actually remember, I'm not going to throw in the name, but a player who had left Penn State, this is years ago under Paterno, but his I had a conversation with the family, and they're like, well, they were ticked at Joe, and I've never really followed up. I'd be curious now all these years later, because like, well, that's what I would want. But they were ticked at Joe because they felt that their son was NFL worthy. And he's like, I don't think he is. Your son's a terrific football player. Love him. But I don't think, I really don't think he's going to make it in the NFL. Well, he didn't make it in the NFL. But they were like angry about the assessment. I'm like, well, and they had called me to talk about it, and I'm like, well, I can't join you in getting angry about it. Like, I think if you go to your coach, like, I think that is better. And listen, and they're like, well, we're going to prove them wrong. I'm like, well, that's exactly the attitude you should have. That'd be great. But it's not that. I think you were asking for an assessment. Not. I don't think Joe Paterno was telling you he was rooting against you, right? I mean, Joe would love to have a kid that, hey, I didn't think you were going to make it, man.
Prove me wrong.
To you. That's great. But he also, I mean, this was at a stage of his career where he had a pretty good feel for guys and where they fit in. And he's like, I'm just honestly telling you, I don't think that's where you're at. And I think his point was, I think you need to be getting ready to pivot. By all means, go chase the dream. Sure. And I'm pulling for you, but be prepared, because talent-wise, I just don't think that's where you're at. Well, again, I think most people would rather have that honest assessment.
Joe saw the kid in a different light than the parents and family did. Joe saw him on the practice field. He saw him in the weight room, saw him here and saw him there, saw him on game day.
And saw the other guys that over many years
have gone ahead and
it wasn't an effort thing. I mean, he said again, he's done everything he can. It's just there's a certain level of God-given ability that you need, and I don't think, again, it wasn't adamant that no, don't even try. My God, you're crazy.
I just hate when parents go in there and they're going to challenge Joe or challenge James or challenge any coach. If the coach is being brutally honest with you and saying, hey, your kid needs to do this, and this, and you're going to sit there and argue that. It's like, this is the guy who knows your son better than you do.
But where I'm going with that is, and I think with any program, like, that's what you want is, and I think Ryan Day does it with his kids, and I think James Franklin does it with his kids, is, hey, here's an honest assessment. This is where,
as an athlete, that's all you can ask for.
This is what we're looking at in the recruiting front. I think even when it comes to the transfer portal, people talk about, wow, Franklin pushed this guy out. I don't get the sense that Franklin's telling anybody, man, you need to get out of here. We got to open up. But I do think he's having honest discussions. It's like, man, if you want to play in your collegiate career, I just don't think it's going to be here. We'd be happy to help you if that's your goal. If you are happy being part of the program, and I'm guessing, I mean, I'm not part of the conversations, obviously, but I just don't get the feeling that Franklin is like pushing guys away necessarily. It's just, hey, honestly, yeah, you're going to be like 4th or 5th in the depth chart. You're in your 4th year. If you want to go somewhere where you at least have a shot at playing time, or you want,
but that's what you want as a player.
Correct. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. And so I think Ryan Day, and I think you're right.
He is the new age coach.
Is like, hey, this is our guy. This is who I think is going to be our backup, and the rest of we'd love to have you, obviously, but we get the position you're in. I will say one of the more challenging things, is getting that a number 2 quarterback that you feel really good about.
That's Dave's worry.
Especially if it's once you get a couple of years, it's one thing if incoming freshman, all right, we're going to redshirt you in. But if you're getting, 3 years in and you're like, yeah, we want you to be our number 2. So, well, I want to be the starter. And that's, I do think I'm really curious to see how Penn State uses Prabula. After listening to Kotelnicki talk about Prabula, what he brings to the table, like, I do think Penn State is going to have a lot of different looks with what they do with this offense, and part of it is going to be using the quarterbacks in different situations differently and putting different types of
using them to what they're good at,
defense.
Exploiting what they're good at.
Yes.
To go back to the coaches thing, whether he's your best friend or not, or biggest enemy in the team, all you want is honesty. That's any athlete, any coach, any sport, any level.
Yeah.
You don't want guy who blows smoke up your butt. I hate those guys. And then, who sees through the players. So I'm telling you, Ryan Day, by doing that, if it's this what we're saying, he announces who the starter is 2 weeks before the season. Is he doing that for NIL purposes? Is he doing it, not NIL, but transfer portal purposes and stuff like that? And then that resonates to the rest of the team. Like, hey, okay, Coach Day is for real. He's not going to bullcrap me. And that goes a long freaking way. Trust me, when it comes to the trust between the players and their the coaching staff.
Yeah.
Because there's enough people out there who will lie, cheat, and steal just to get to the next level or to win or something like that and be dishonest with the kids. And I'm telling you, they are picked out right away by that team, and that it's not good for the coach.
Yeah, or the program. I think I think most coaches, right, are for as bad of a rap as they get, and people are like, all these shenanigans. Again, the kids talk, and when you go on the recruiting visits, yes, the coaches are trying to put their best foot forward. The program is trying to put its best foot forward, but the players are going to be honest with you. It's like, all right, listen, you may want to think about this. Coach told so and so. So that's why I just think, especially when you're looking at coaches that have been in now for 10 years plus, right? It's pretty unlikely that you're having a coach with any kind of sustained success who is just playing games with his players. Yeah. And it just doesn't work. Going to hurt. I mean, you might get away with it for a year, maybe two, but it's people talk and the word gets out too quickly in this day and age, and it just I think most of these guys really are.
And you would be surprised,
honestly, with the kids in their program.
You'd be surprised at how much these kids know each other. It's different than when we were around. Sure. I mean, there were guys that I followed that I went on recruiting trips with and stuff like that. Grew up with, played against, that I followed on TV. It wasn't like I was calling them or texting, but now you have 8 million different ways to contact somebody. And I would be in contact with all my guys that I had grown up with who were playing in different colleges and then say, hey, what's going on over there? Something happened to Notre Dame. I want to hear what's going on. I'd call Sean Wood or Mark Sadovetsky, 2 guys I grew up with, but I didn't have their numbers in college. We didn't have,
right.
You know what I mean? It was like, how do I get in contact? Well, I got to call his mom, get his cell number, his dorm number and stuff like that. It wasn't worth it. So, remember the phone book? You had a phone book in college.
Oh, yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
Yes, we did.
Yeah. But, the coaching stuff that does come around, and it doesn't matter where. It doesn't matter what sport. It doesn't matter what level. If you are known as a guy who is not honest with his team, players and recruits will know that. And they will absolutely know that. And other schools will recruit against it.
Yeah.
And they're like, hey, you don't want to go to Penn State. You're not going to get you're not going to get this. You're not going to get that. And it's an ugly world. But, I mean, again, Day might be doing those kids a favor and saying, hey, this is not going to happen for you. But I think that Ryan Day is also worried, like, I got 4 guys here. I need 1 starter. 3 might leave. I mean, if that's a possibility of what might happen, he really has to protect himself that the number 2, even the possibly number 3 guy is not leaving. But I go back to it. Like, when I try to compare it with wrestling, a kid knows when he gets to Penn State if he could do it, if he could play there in the first month.
I think usually that's the case, and it's different now in that regard for sure than it was even 10 years ago, and certainly than 30 years ago, because
30 years ago, that's the
much
50s.
Of the same thing is when most of these guys now have traveled, they've wrestled all of these guys, a lot of them since elementary school, or even if they're changing weight classes, maybe they haven't wrestled them, but they've been in the same tournaments, you've been talking to them, you are watching and seeing the styles, probably rolling around with them somewhere along the way. And so I think the high school kids, from an athletic standpoint anyway, competitive standpoint, it is less of a transition now than it's ever been, which isn't to say it's not a transition and that there's still, there's levels to the game, right? And all of that. And certainly the mat wrestling, I think for a lot of these guys, it takes a year or two for most of them to, okay, man, I really got to be able to control on top. I really got to be able to get away from the guys that are really good on top when I'm underneath, those sorts of things. But you have a pretty good idea. I mean, a lot of these guys now are wrestling, even college guys, while they're in high school, and they have a gauge. It's like, okay, yeah, I'm good enough. That being said, I will say that there's still guys that are elite, and again, David Taylor. I realize now we're going back, whatever it is, 13 years. But when Taylor came in, like, I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't say he ever doubted that he belonged in the room, but he took some pretty good beatdowns that first couple of months. Now, I'm not going to say he was just getting destroyed and wasn't able to hold his own. But, I mean, there were guys that were beating him consistently that by the next year, it's like, okay, they have no chance of being in the same realm. So there is still a little bit of a transition. I think you're right. You probably but in that Penn State room, I mean, if the first couple of guys you're wrestling with are Carter Storacci and Aaron Brooks, it's like, oh man, maybe I don't belong. Well, you could belong even if you're getting hammered by those guys. So, but again, I think there's a better understanding too. Like, those guys also know when they're coming in what they're getting into, and it's part of why they're going to a program like Penn State, as I know that these guys are at a different level, and I want to learn and figure out how to get there. So I don't know that I mean, it used to be like when I first started covering the program, almost, there were very few exceptions, but most freshmen came in and just took their beating.
We can honestly say, you and I, we can honestly say that when I came in, your age, my age, the health and nutrition is leaps and bounds above right now. Is leaps and bounds above right now. Is that in the wrestling world also, or was that wrestling? Well, you guys had to do that even 30 years ago.
No, I think that's improved.
But the S&C, the health, the strength and conditioning, and the strength and conditioning and the nutrition is what I did not have growing up.
Yeah, ever. But so I think one of the big differences is that at the high school level now, a lot of these guys are getting that knowledge and understanding that they're exposed, whether it's through camps or and this is with any sport, whether it's through camps or the recruiting process or just, again, wrestling in different tournaments and picking brains of coaches that have either been college wrestlers, been college coaches, or at least know them. Like, I think there is a that's not say all of them are following all of the advice, but I mean, the awareness for even high school and even down to elementary school kids now of, all right, this is what I need to do for optimal performance. Now, again, it might be, well, hopefully it is more specified and more emphasized as you get to the collegiate level. But again, you're getting exposed to such high-level coaching that's available, at least, whether or not you're able to access it. But a lot of these kids that are on that track are accessing that coaching at a younger and younger level. And again, they're getting exposed to, they're going to different camps, they're going to different tournaments and seeing different styles. All of the, when David Taylor was here with the M2 club, and Ben Askren's club, Young Guns with the strip matter and all of that. All of those things are still, not still, they are allowing these kids access to the thinking of college coaches and what and again, that's just in wrestling, but it's the same thing when you talk to lacrosse coaches or even like track and field, swimming and diving. The emphasis on technique and then on all of the other things that go into it. It's like, well, this is going to be your best weight training program. You're going to want to take some time off here. You're going to want to
that is the biggest
there.
difference.
You're going to want to.
It has to be.
Yeah, you're going to want to, bananas and water an hour before, whatever it may be. But I mean, you get very specific on, hey, this is what the elite swimmers, the elite wrestlers, the elite track and field athletes are doing. Now, again, at some point, you still need it's God-given athletic ability. You can make yourself into being so good just by doing all of those things. You still, if everybody is doing those things, the difference still is God-given ability.
Think about this.
And, the mental edge in a competitive situation.
If we had a Friday game in high school in football, my mom would host because we lived rather close to my high school, and our high school there was no parameter. So there guys are coming from a half hour away at times. So we got done school at 2:45, had to be back on the bus at 5:30. So, you figure you had about a 2-hour window. And I remember going to my mom and dad's house, and we had spaghetti and meatballs for all the guys. Now, whoever lived far away, so there'd be like 30 guys at my house. This is 3 hours before a game. And now it's 24 hours before a game where you're carbing up.
Yeah,
we were carbing up 3 hours before the game.
Oh yeah.
I mean, think about how far that has come. I mean, to know not to do that. That's not how you want to do your pregame meal type of thing. It should not be a heavy pasta meal with meatballs. But we didn't know any better. I mean, that's where my mom and dad were raised, and that's the way I was raised. I mean, we didn't know.
Yeah.
And then you come to college, and I mean, that is easily, by far, the biggest difference in the last 40, 30, or 40 years in sports. It's just the players and mom and dad's awareness. I mean, is that something to do with social media, the ability to go watch videos on YouTube and read up and understand better. There's more stuff to read, more stuff to understand. More people are talking about it. But like the strength and conditioning and nutrition, just where's it going to be 30 years from now? Because it was. I mean, it just goes back to what I said about Coach. Back in the day. I mean, things have changed and this and that, but you can always. That's the biggest difference, but you trust the coach's honesty. So I know that's where you were going with the whole stories and all that.
Yeah, even the technology and the ability to break down film and look at this first step. You want to, and again, that's being done at earlier and earlier ages.
That was a knock, and this is I can say this because I lived it, and that was a knock of old school, older coaches. If they weren't in their office 75 hours for the week, they weren't working. They weren't getting it done. They weren't grinding. They weren't doing this. You can do 70 hours of work in about 15 freaking hours nowadays with the technology that we have. You just go in your computer and you type in 1st and 10, versus an open set. And then you have every play that team you're playing against, every play that they're going to run is right there. Before you had to get 10 wraps of film, the old school 8mm, that was back in the day. And then you got in the VCR tapes. And then now you just plug it into the computer. But imagine the 5 hours of film you used to watch, you can watch in 45 minutes now. That is a huge difference. But these old school coaches, and yes, that was Penn State football for a little bit there.
Oh, yeah.
And when it was, you don't need to be here for something, but they could not mentally sit there and say, well, I'm not grinding. I'm not putting the hours in. I'm not doing this and doing that. If you're working smarter, you don't need to work harder. And this is what a lot of the problem with these older school coaches that were, and that's not Penn State. That was a lot of coaches back in the day who had trouble transitioning to, well, it's like the workforce nowadays. Now Carrie works in the office 2 days a week. She's 3. She's home office 3 days a week. And, that's because of COVID, because they realized, wow, we can do this without the bricks and mortar. I mean, we're just progressing. You just got to get to that point. But the coaching and the film work is just, even as a player, your Sunday night, you're sent a tape of next week's opponent, 3rd down and long, 3rd and short, 1st and goal, 3rd and goal, option plays, pass plays, run plays, blitzes, this and that. And all you got to do is just punch it on your cell phone, and you can sit there and watch the film at any time of the day. It's tough to grasp a little bit.
Even from the athlete's standpoint, right? It's like, well, if you want to be in really good shape, run 3 miles a day, run 4 miles a day. Well, if that guy's running 4, I'm going to run 5. Well,
when do you have to
depending on what your sport is, right? Like, so we know so much more about recovery. All right, yeah, give yourself a couple of days off in terms of rigorous training here or there. Get yourself into a hot tub or a recovery pool. Get yourself the right nutrients after practice. And there's, that law of diminishing returns. It's like, if you are going hard for an hour and a half or 2 hours practice, no matter what the sport, you're probably pretty much good for the day. Now, there may be some benefit to going in and rolling around if you're wrestling, or, hey, I need to work on, my specific skill for an extra hour here or there, free throw shooting a basketball, whatever it may be. There may be, but even there, again, right, it's like, okay, but doing something 500 times instead of 100 isn't necessarily, depending on what it is, and again, the amount of effort and all of that, but it isn't necessarily going to be better for you. As you said, working smarter. I use the example all the time. Kerry McCoy was really the first person.
He watches the show, by the way. I don't know if you noticed that.
I was around where Kerry was really, really in tune with his body throughout his career, and he would go to the coach and say, "Listen,
I'm good.
I'm feeling. I need a day of recuperation, or." You know what? I need to go a little extra today. I got to get.
And they could trust him not to be.
Yes.
Conning them.
But he really was very, very good on his own at knowing and kind of sensing. All right, I need to go a little harder. I need to back off a little bit. I need to get this taken care of. And. I think most of these guys now, not all of them are great initially when they come in. Like a lot of them still try to, it's bothering me. I'll just work through it. Well, you have a professional medical person, let them look at it so that something that, it's just bothering me a little bit doesn't start bothering you more because you weren't getting it treated when it was just bothering you a little bit. Like those sorts of things still happen. And I think, you still need to learn that, again, mention to your coach, mention to your trainer, mention to your support staff, just like if you're taking same thing with your academic advisor. If you're, of course, boy, that test was harder than I thought. I'm used to getting A's and I got a C, but at least I'm passing. And the next one, well, no, go to, like, when you get that first C, if that's not, like, go to your advisor. Hey, I felt like I studied right for it. Whatever it is, the amount of available resources and assistance to help you has also changed. Like it used to, tape it up. Your wrist is bothering you, tape it up. We need to lift, just, lift the 10 reps at however, the highest amount you can lift, 10 and you're done. Well, now, again, depending on the position, depending on what you're looking to get from it, depending on the time of the year, all of that stuff is going to change. You're not training the same as we did year-round during the season, out of season. It all changes up, and it's the same thing with, on the medical front, the academic front, all of this stuff. We just have
I got one for you, Headley.
Understanding.
I don't know why. Well, I do know why. Is because our coach was 182 years old, and there's no offense to Joe. He was just old school. Yeah. Why were we, as offensive linemen and defensive linemen, running 20-minute runs to open up the summer? Okay. We had to run 9.5 laps in 20 minutes as offensive defensive linemen. That's a lot, man. And that's not, if you're built 315 pounds, you're not built for that. You know,
And you don't need to do that in a football game.
You know, that's what was his name? Bum Phillips. Well, Earl Campbell didn't pass his mile run test. He goes, well, when it's 3rd and mile, won't give him the ball then.
Yep.
But it's the truth. I mean, why in the hell would you have offensive and defensive linemen other than just Joe being that's the way we've done it forever? That's the way we do it. So we started off the summertime with long distance runs, and then in the 6th week we graduated to long distance sprints, which were 300-yard sprints, and then you did that for 6 weeks, and then the final 6 weeks were just sprinting and position work. So I get it. There was a method to the madness and all that, but what do you think? Do you really think that I'm out of shape if I'm running? I always used to get mad. I used to run a very, very fast 40. I was very fast. But I obviously did eventually pass those 20-minute run tests, but I could not run distance. My back would tighten up, my legs would tighten up, and some guys just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
It was one of those things. It wasn't because we were out of shape. It wasn't because we were good football players. It was just like just physically weren't built like that. And I tell the story that the day Don Shula drafted my brother in 1987, he called him and he was like, yeah, we'll get you down here. And then he said something like, we'll get down here. And I think that Don Shula was on record as saying, you know, I never want an offensive lineman to run more than 30 yards. What's the point of having a 40 for an offensive lineman? You don't need it. Is that a real gauge of football? No. But it's a gauge of how fast you are and athletic you are type of thing. But it was always like that was Don Shula. It was like, you're never going to run more than 30 yards as an offensive lineman. So I will never ask you to run more than that. But you better be ready to go type of thing. So, but I mean, that is Joe. Joe was old school. And then, John Thomas, who's, besides my father, the most, I look up to him as a father. Next to my father is I hold him in the highest regard. And he was sort of hamstrung with his positioning there because Joe was so old school. And Joe's exact words at JT were, if you ever hurt one of my players, just leave. You're done. You're never going to coach here ever again. So we never pressed. We worked hard, very, 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 very hard. And we put out a lot and we did a lot. But, he never put us in a situation where we were power cleaning, squatting, and doing the Olympic lifts where you do see a guy from Penn State, at least one a year, is out for the season with a torn bicep or torn pectoral muscle, torn hamstring type of thing. You never saw that when the old man was here because we never put our players in those positions to get hurt. So we didn't do those explosive exercises, but that was just Joe being old school. JT would have loved to have put us in squat racks. He would have loved to put us in bench competitions to see how much we could actually bench. Yeah. But he also knew that if one of us popped the hamstring, popped the biceps tendon, popped the pec, he was gone.
His job. Yeah.
Yep, that was it. And he'd be gone. So, I mean, again, progressive. We have progressed to the point where it's understood, but the players have a much better understanding of it now. I'm just going back to myself. Again, high school. They used to drive us to the Poconos, Camp Canadensis, Pennsylvania, and we had 4 practices a day and then conditioning.
Yeah.
I mean, are you really?
Yeah. And I do think there is, I think there is something beneficial about testing mental toughness and mental fortitude. And I mean, that stuff, I suppose, did that to a degree. But again, did it do it smartly? I think there are other ways that you can I suspect even now there's probably some old school, well, yeah, but man, you had to show that you wanted it that badly. Okay, but is there a better way to show how badly you want it?
Put you in a tough environment.
Man, I want to win without depleting the physical reserves that you're going to need to tap into over the course of a long season. And especially in physical sports like football or basketball or wrestling or hockey, where you need the body to be built up in that off season so that it can withstand the rigors of the regular season. And
I got a new one for you.
Knowing how to do that without, and again, there's all kinds of different ways you can test and and I'm all for, we got to find out who wants it. But there's ways of doing that without sapping all of one's energy or making it less likely they can hold up during the duration of the season.
Why is college football still have 27 days of preseason? Because back in the day, you use those 27 days to get into shape.
Yeah.
And now we're to the point where our athletes are in shape day one, that they don't need those 27 days to get into shape. And this is where the old school, new school is sort of clashing here a little. In the NFL, I get it. They're doing preseason games, but in college football, you have 27 days of camp before your first game. So, those days 40 years ago were used to get people into shape. And then again, but when I was here, we were completely in shape when we went into the camp. This is like Vince Lombardi's 60s Packers teams when he used to go away for a month to get into shape. So, is preseason going to get lessened in college? If they're having practices throughout the summer also.
Well, and not only that, not only are they already in shape, I would submit that even the true freshmen have a better understanding of the playbook probably than most sophomores or juniors back in the day.
Yeah.
Because they have meetings, they get the play. I mean, and I get that they used to always get the playbook, like, I don't know if it was once you signed but I mean, before you got to campus, get the playbook. But now, not only can you get the playbook, they can send you the film study,
clips.
Yeah, I guess it's not film, but the video clips that you can look at, and this is exactly how we want this run. This is what you're looking, so that you. I hear you. But not only do you not need those days to get in shape, truthfully. Now, it's still different. I get it. I'm not saying you don't need to be out of the field and you see how it works and exactly what everybody else is doing.
I'm with you.
But do you need it to the degree
the lingo
that you did 20, 30 years ago? Probably not.
Yeah. Until you do it. And again, these kids are coming up here in May/June. Some of them are coming in January before their freshman year. But there are 3 practices on the field a week throughout the summer. I'm telling you right now, if this was 1994, I've had this conversation with other guys before, we would have revolted. We would have told Joe to go pound sand and go pound something else if we were going to have 3 meetings a week, 5 days of running and workouts, and then the 6th day being Saturday, our day away, and it was, by the way, we're having a voluntary, involuntary run today. So you're working 6 days a week working out, and then you're going to have 3 practices that are considered walk-throughs. Are you showering after a walkthrough? That's not a walkthrough. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
Back in the day, I was not allowed to see a coach from spring football until August. You weren't allowed to talk to them, and now it's like you're having meetings. So why do you need 27 days to get these guys ready to play one game? I know this is a weird way where we got to this point right now in this conversation, but it's just the old school values versus the new school. It's like,
now you got to earn your money though.
Hey, you got 27 days of camp. You could be out getting money. You could be out soliciting money.
Yeah,
from advertisers.
It is a different world. All right, that's going to wrap things up for today. We will be back on Tuesday. Hope you have a terrific weekend. And until Tuesday, be good and be safe.
Woo.